Hi.
TV Crazy Man here. On this video, we remember the classic Saturday morning TV show Shazam from the 1970s. With some cool facts of the show you may not have heard anywhere else.
You dig?
Shazam, of course, was based off the comic book series that featured Captain Marvel as a Superman-like hero. Comic fans probably know the story how Captain Marvel was so big back in the 1940s, he got as big as Superman for a time before DC Comics decided to sue and ended up taking the rights of Shazam. Captain Marvel even had a black and white movie serial, just like Superman. The 70s were kind of a revival for Captain Marvel. DC had just started printing a new Shazam comic series about a year before the TV series started. The story revolves around Billy Batson traveling the country in a motorhome with his mentor named Mentor. That really was the name they went with. In the comics, he would have been known as Uncle Dudley.
Be careful about letting your emotions cloud your reason.
Any kid who grew up in the 70s likely loved this show back in the day. Mentor was played by actor Les Tremaine. Did you know he once played Boss Hogg's dad on the Dukes of Hazzard on a season 5 episode called Big Daddy in 1982? Turns out Boss's dad was even more crooked than he was. Tremaine had played on a number of movies and shows before Shazam, and after Shazam he went on to do a lot of voice work on Saturday morning series like Godzilla, GoBots, Scooby-Doo, and the Smurfs. In the show, Billy is just like the comic book version. He gets his powers from classic heroes from the ancient world like wisdom of Solomon, strength of Hercules, speed of Mercury, and so forth. In the show, unlike the comics, Billy is always talking to these ancient heroes, known as the Elders on the series.
Appear before my seeking eyes.
You are obedient and respectful, Billy. However, you will meet someone unlike yourself.
Jackson Bostwick played Captain Marvel. That is, until he was fired after missing a day after sustaining an injury that producers didn't believe. They thought he was just holding out for more money. I actually met him once at a comic convention and talked to him for a while. He's a really nice guy. To me, it was about like meeting the Lone Ranger. Pretty amazing. Anyway, after that, John Davey took over as Captain Marvel for 11 more episodes. Now, Michael Gray played Billy Batson. I was very surprised to see him do a cameo in the new Shazam movie sequel, wearing his classic TV Shazam shirt. Did you know he also appeared on an episode of The Brady Bunch in the episode Marcia Gets Creamed in 1973? Did you ever notice that the Shazam logo was right on the face of the motorhome, even though Captain Marvel's identity was supposed to be a secret?
We'll return after these messages.
Now let me mention real quick, my name is Tim Frady. I'm an author and independent comic book artist. You know me here on this channel as TV Crazy Man, because I'm crazy about classic TV. Look for my books at Amazon. I've got some great time travel novels, a superhero book called Liberty Ace, and my comedic comic, Caveman Comics. I'm doing an update on one of those characters from that book series that I'm really excited about. It will be the first solo book for Claw the Kung Fu Cat.
We'll return to Shazam.
They explained that the reason Billy and Mentor were traveling the country was that Billy Batson's radio show had sent him on a roving assignment to do stories about American youth with Mentor as an advisor. Every episode ended with a moral segment where Captain Marvel or Billy Batson would explain that episode's life lesson. The moral was always something basic and simple like, listen to your parents and don't lie. Simple morals that may sound corny by today's standards, but still very powerful ones at that.
If a person can't like you for what you are, then maybe they're not worth having as friends. Before we can like others, we must first like ourselves. Honesty is the best policy. May sound corny now, but it's really true.
Surprisingly, for a Saturday morning series, they didn't shy away from dealing with the difficult subject of drugs in the first season episode, The Lure of the Lost. I can remember a few other Saturday morning series that warned against drug use back then. After all, there was a drug epidemic going on at the time. Now, I bet that a modern day series aimed at kids would never touch the subject today. They usually give warning labels if the show even has tobacco use. And it probably wouldn't matter if it was an anti-tobacco or anti-drug message. Any depiction of any such use would get those severe warnings they like to put on things that we wouldn't have thought much about being shown on a TV series back in the day.
Well, Gary, thanks to you, Brock and his whole drug operation is finished.
And I am finished with drugs, man. They are bad news.
Don't smoke. It doesn't make you grown up.
According to what I read on IMDb, Batman's Adam West actually did some uncredited voice work as an elder on the series. Listen carefully to this clip and see if it sounds like him to you.
It's important to understand a parent's concern.
The Wizard is never mentioned in the series, but some folks think that perhaps Mentor was the Wizard due to one scene where he seems to pop up in a tree without explanation, and a line from Billy where he states that Mentor has a way of popping up when you least expect him. And then there was this line Mentor gives jokingly that he was, or that he had mystic powers in the episode The Lure of the Lost.
Billy's right, Holly. The biggest problem in the world could be solved when it was small.
How did he get here?
Oh, he has a way of popping up when you least expect him.
Here's a rundown on some surprising guest stars that appeared on Shazam. Jackie Earl Haley from other comic book related movies and shows like The Watchmen and The Human Target played on the episode The Delinquent, Season 1, Episode 12, way back in 1974. On that same episode, Hilly Hicks guest starred. He went on to do the voice of Brock on the 70s Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon show. And he also was Robbie Robertson on one episode of The Amazing Spider-Man back in the 70s. Joanna Cameron guest starred as Isis on Shazam at least 3 times and had her own Saturday morning show as well. Isis and Captain Marvel did the occasional crossover, and their shows were combined into an hour as the Shazam Isis Hour. You probably remembered that Joanna Cameron was actually on a episode of The Amazing Spider-Man TV show on CBS as well. Carol Ann Seffinger was on 2 episodes of Shazam. You may remember her as Susan on the Croft Super Show's Wonderbug. Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family was on the episode Speak No Evil.
When I was your age and something happened and I didn't know what to do, I always talked to my father.
Dabbs Greer, who was the pastor from A Little House on the Prairie, guest starred on the episode Fool's Gold. Greer coincidentally appeared on 3 episodes of The Adventures of Superman, including the very first episode where Superman saved him from falling to his doom.
Because right then, this guy in a red and blue costume comes flying through the air and catches me.
You can get the entire series on DVD at Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below.
See you next week.